Well, all right, everyone. Welcome back to the Running Coaches Connection podcast presented by MICA, the Michigan Interscholastic Coaches Association. I'm Takashi Gould and I'm joined by Rolando Eccleston today. Unfortunately, Carl and Dave are not available to joining us. They're probably doing presidential stuff, solving the world's problems. Today we're joined by Mario Gomez, who's an English teacher and track coach at Captain John L. Chapin High School in El Paso, Texas. He coaches multi-event athletes and is responsible for creating the workout programs for his sprinters, relays, and horizontal jumpers. He's also a frequent contributor to freelifeusa.com. You can see all of his articles are linked up through our bio and then on the description here. And he's a track dork, much like all of us. So, hey, Mario, wanted to say thanks a bunch for joining us today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm pretty excited to talk track with you guys.
Yeah, you're first Texan on here, and we obviously have a mutual friend that kind of got us linked up. I was wondering if you could say a couple of things and maybe how you got introduced to the sport of athletics and your journey to where you are as a coach and educator today.
Yeah, man, I have a friend of mine that always says, long story longer. I got introduced to track in a really funny way, man. I didn't run track in high school. I dabbled in it, I guess. I was like a horrible hurdler, and I did a little bit of triple jumping. But actually my best sport in high school was football and tennis. That's a weird combination. What happened is I went to New Mexico State University, and I started dating a track girl there. And through just sheer luck, I started kind of talking to the head coach there. I ended up working athletic media relations, which is a fancy way of saying that I was responsible for kind of getting out all the results to our big media over there. We had like one newspaper. And so that was my job. And I just really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed track and field. I know they call it athletics everywhere else in the world, but, I really enjoyed it. And wherever I ended up going, I graduated. I student taught at a high school there called Mayfield. And I student taught there, and then I coached there. And ever since I've been teaching now for 14 years, and I've been coaching track and field, I want to say about 12 or 13 years. And I always like to say, man, I think I was a little lucky not to have run high school in the sense that I didn't have any, preconceived ideas about what track was and what you were supposed to have done. So all the ideas that I've gotten have just been off of, being able to collaborate, with guys like you and a lot of different coaches that have been very, just helpful along the way. But yeah, track and field just came through an off chance where I met a college girl that ran track, and what is it? I guess 20 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
Crazy little story, huh?
Yeah. It made the world a better place by you sharing that, though. So, one thing that we always talk about, Takashi and I, obviously, because we work together, is what we're going to do every day because of the weather.
Yeah.
Because this is Michigan, and it's real out here.
Yeah.
There was a week last week where I think Monday and Tuesday was in the low 60s. In the middle, it snowed. And then at the end of the week, it rained. So that always makes us, when we talk about training and getting our kids ready, we always have to have plan A, plan B, and plan C, because you never know what's going to come up. And obviously, we always, to a degree, envy coaches with nice weather.
Absolutely, and as you should.
So, so I'm going to just go ahead and deal with being frustrated while you tell us this great story. But what's it like down there training in El Paso?
Man, the worst thing we get out here are 60-mile-an-hour gust winds. And we had one this past Tuesday. 60-mile-an-hour gust winds, yeah.
60?
Wow.
60, yes, sir, yeah. So that's about the worst that it gets, but that's maybe once or twice a season. Really, man, we're able to train out here. If you want to Wikipedia it or whatever you want to do, we have about 330 days of sunshine down here.
Oh.
If it snows down here, we're pretty excited. We're taking pictures. We're those goofballs that are gonna Instagram our snow, our snowball fights and everything because we're so excited that we got snow down here.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different world, man. We're able to train under the sun so often. And so weather, it's rare. It's rare. I mean, we go in with a plan A, plan B, based on like how hard our kids have trained before, or if they had like a rough, weekend. I think we're gonna get into the types of meets that we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, I do have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, but it's not like weather related. A lot of times, okay, if a kid is like has a tight hamstring, we might do some dribbling, or if that's not working out, then we may just kind of go into the weight room and see what we can do there. But as far as like weather related stuff, man, I don't want to be that jerk that kind of throws it in your face, but yeah, we're looking at 300 days of sunshine out here. I'll give you a perfect example. This year, my off-season class, we've been at it since September, and the first day we missed was last Tuesday because of those winds. I mean, that's how we're very, very lucky to have great weather down here. So, that's not too, I don't want to hurt the audience and say, they're not going to learn much from that, but that's just the circumstances that we have down here.
No,
so if you got like a kid that gives you some lip, or like a head case, you ever get him to do some some parachute work on one of those 60-mile-an-hour wind?
He might be sent sliding over the Franklin Mountains. I don't know if that's such a good idea. But,
well, I think that's the point.
Yeah, but it's easy when people say, how do you do over speed training? Well, we just send them with the wind. That's a little easier to do down here. We just run with the wind down here. It's pretty easy to do that.
Yeah.
Resistant training for the other way, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't even, who needs to buy sleds? We just go against the wind.
Yeah. How is it with the altitude? How is that any different? Or do you notice anything?
I haven't really noticed anything. The only thing is this was my first year as an assistant cross country coach, and we do about a week or 2 weeks we do a camp out in Rio Doso, which is the New Mexico area, and so the elevation's really high up there. But I don't think those 2 weeks are enough. I think we do it more as like a team bonding thing. But the elevation, it's not anything. The only thing that's really kind of that stinks down here, I guess, is not in El Paso, but when we go to the state meet, I've been very fortunate in the 9 years that I've been at Chapin. I think I've been able to go to state meet 4 or 5 times now, because it's super competitive down here. It's really humid in Austin, Texas. Like, it rains the day of the state meet. So like last year we were over there and it was like 85 degrees, but the humidity level was like over 100.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so like our kids aren't used to that. So we train in dry heat. Like we train in dry heat, and like the kids are, they're having to put on a ton of sunscreen and stuff like that. But when we go to Austin or big meets like that, even in Lubbock, a lot of it is just dealing with the humidity. I mean, that's really where, like, the Houston kids are used to it. The Dallas area kids, they're used to it. We go down there and we're like, oh, we get off the airplane. We're like, what is this?
Yeah.
So that's about the only downfall, to be quite honest with you. But being able to train in the sun, man, and I mean, it's so much of an advantage compared to what I'm sure you guys go through and other coaches around the country go through.
Yeah. I remember what the sun used to look like.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Well, I think I was telling you guys before we started talking that we were at a meet yesterday and we set a pretty good amount of PRs, but it wasn't based on anything. It was just 85 degrees yesterday. I was like maybe about 81 degrees with like 3 miles an hour per wind, which is, it's nutty. With 4 days before you have, I don't know, 60 mile an hour gust winds, but 4 days later you're running in 70-degree weather. So it's not a bad thing, to be quite honest with you. It's quite the advantage.
You said 85 degrees.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I think I had to Google when was the last time it was 85 degrees in Michigan.
When did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I did look up because I was curious. You said 300 days of sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're averaging around 180. And I'm telling you, this year is a low year. I'm telling you that right now.
It's like 160, 150.
Yeah, man.
When we were talking before, you guys were saying you guys get to train a lot indoor, and it's not the best facilities. We got to run at Texas A&M this year, and we get to run in Albuquerque as well. Mm-hmm. And so my kids, when they saw a banked indoor track for the first time, they had no clue what a banked track was. Like, they had no clue. A lot of it was their first time running indoor. And they're like, Coach, I don't like this 200. What is this one lap deal? I don't like this. It was so different, so different for them because, the majority of our training is, not the majority, all of our training is done outdoors.
Right.
So there's no indoor season out here, but, when you do compete in indoor where it's not UAL sanctioned, it's just, like A&M will have a high school only, and I think Houston has one. We go down there and try to compete, but, yeah, they see an indoor track, and they're like, what in the world is this? They have no clue.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it teaches you how to race savvy,
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah, you have to hit marks. Yeah.
Up and you got to figure out, you're gonna have a little bit of bumping, and you got to fight for your position and be smart about things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're gonna run the 4, you've got to beat that person to the mark. Yeah, absolutely. So it does make you a little bit of a tougher runner there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of, it's funny. That's exactly what happened with one of my athletes this indoor at that 400. Takashi, remember that?
Yeah.
It was a total tactic race, and she was actually last place at the 200 mark. Kind of
in the 400, yeah.
In the 400, but kind of by design. We kind of talked about, this being the championship meet, and so time is a little bit less relevant. We're trying to get a good place, and kind of reminded her that you're the only 800 runner in this field, so use that to your advantage, and kind of play your position. And she had a perfectly executed race, a really nice late kick, and came from 6th and finished 2nd place.
Oh man, be them. When the race plan is actually executed on the track, I mean, doesn't it feel so good?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What I struggled with, we took 2 girls that are decent 800 runners. We took them down, and I've been talking to a few 800 experts on this, and we're trying to say, well, how fast should their first lap be? They're so used to it being a 2-lap race that they went out and ran that first lap in 32 seconds indoor, 200-meter track.
Yeah.
Well, they came back and ran like a 44 or 43-second last lap, and I'm like,
right.
Something didn't go right.
Yeah.
Something didn't go right. The experts are like, well, you got to have this time difference or a negative split, whatever. No, my girls just went out and tanked it after 200 meters. You're like, oh well, that's not going to work out so well.
Yeah. Well, I guess you put it from that perspective. I guess it makes sense. Why our kids seems to be consistently doing well in the 800. I mean, they're kind of ingrained from indoor that it's a segment of 200s. Where each 200 is a different approach, and so maybe that's a little bright idea. That's a theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
No, I mean, I liked it. I like the fact that it teaches them to hit the splits, but like I said, that was literally their first time ever running on a Hunter Bank track, and they had no clue. Yeah, so it was different.
That's a whole other ballgame you're talking about. Now you're talking about bank tracks. We don't have that.
Oh, you guys don't have those down there.
We have flat tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have 2 300-meter facilities though too. So.
Yeah, we got oversized. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky to have visited. Let me see. I've gone to the Bubble and Texas Tech. I've gone to A&M, Albuquerque. And there's one more in Houston. Houston's that one's a little tighter. But I've been able to go to all those. But all of them have been banked. I've never, and that's not to say that I haven't traveled, but I've never seen a flat indoor track in my life, not one time.
Oh, well, come on up to Michigan, man.
Yeah.
I'll be like a half a dozen.
Yeah, we got a bunch of those. Yeah, we got a bunch of those. And all of them have their own little
different ones.
Yeah, and they have their strange little differences. Like the one we run at U of M. It seemed to have a little bit of a longer straightaway and a touch tighter of a turn. We had our state meet at Aquinas College where the turns were really wide for an indoor track.
No.
And some real short straights. So it was a little, they have their little quirks.
Right. You go to Hillsdale. It's like another school down on the southeastern Michigan side, and I think they have what's called legally the widest turn you can have for an indoor track. So I think it's they actually set it the same grade as an outdoor track almost, and so it's it feels like you're running in a circle rather than an oval.
Yeah.
It's really goofy. Yeah.
Cheaters.
Almost like a Talladega, like a Talladega Nights, like a NASCAR race or something.
Pretty much, man.
Yeah. Right.
You know, the tracks, when we go, you know, again, when we're fortunate enough, we haven't been able to go every year, but when we get to go to Austin, UT has a 9-lane outdoor track, and that always trips out my kids too. They're like, how can a track be, you know, 9 lanes? And so what happens over here, I think we kind of touched on this before as well, is Texas is cut up into 4 regions. So then, you know, you have your conference meet, what we call district, and then you have regionals, and then from the regionals you get the top 2, and then you get what, you know, the 9th person is based on like whoever runs the fastest time of the 3rd place winners. That's who ends up going over there. So yeah, when the kids see a 9-lane track for the first time, like that really trips them out too. Because we at Chapin, we have a 6-lane track because of the way the school was built. So we had to train on a 6-lane track. But when they see a 9-lane track, like that, it just looks so much bigger. You know, it's the same. Everybody's running exactly the same amount.
Right.
But it just trips them out as well. They're like, what, 9 lanes? Like that's crazy. And it can play mind games with you. You know, it can play head games with you if you're not careful.
Yeah.
I can see that going from a 6, you know, up. I mean, we have an 8-lane track for the most part, but I was gonna say, like, you can joke with your kids, like, well, guys, it's 8+1, so here you go.
Yep.
Oh, and that's funny.
Yeah.
So, hey, you touched on a little bit there, but if you can go into a little more detail here of how does that outdoor track season work in Texas? Because you said you just had your 3rd meet. You're already in season.
Yeah, man. We have probably – so UIL limits us, which is the governing state body, limits us to 7 meets and then district. So we have to run 7 meets. Now, you are allowed to have what are called dual meets, but we don't have those over here. From what I understand, that's pretty popular in other states. We don't have theirs.
So how many teams are in your conference? Like, can we start there? Because we do have dual meets in Michigan, but that's your conference opponents.
No, we have right now we have 8 teams in our district. We have 8 teams in our districts. In El Paso, we have 32 high schools, public high schools, and on top of that, we probably have some 5 to 10 other private schools. But as far as schools that we compete against, so these 7 meets that we do, we compete against all levels. You know, like yesterday's meet, we were competing. There's 6 divisions over here, 6A being the biggest, 1A being the smallest. We're a 5A. So on any given week, you can be going up against 6As and up, like I think Tornillo was there yesterday, and they're a 3A. So you're really, those 7 meets, you're competing against just kind of anybody and everybody. When you get to district, that's 8 teams there. And from district, what ends up happening is the top 2 in each event end up qualifying for regionals. Now, we have an area meet. There are area meets at the 6A level. They have what's called an area meet. So they take their top 4 and then the other area's top 4. But we don't do an area, or we don't do an area meet over here. We just do a district, and then we go straight to regional. So only the top 2 in each event qualifies. For everybody else, the season's done, and it's one of those unfortunate things. But what's really cool about Texas, like I said, it's cut up into 4 regions, right? So then once you go to regionals, the top 2 from each region, region 1, 2, 3, and 4, they end up going to Austin. Because if you had qualifying times, the fastest times, again, depending on the event, it really depends on the event, but the majority of the fastest times in the sprint events generally come from the Fort Worth, Dallas area, Houston area, from those areas, just because of the student population is so enormous over there.
Right.
So if we had qualifying times, you wouldn't have towns like El Paso being able to qualify, just because El Paso is 800,000 people, while Fort Worth and Houston and Dallas, those areas alone are probably in the 4 million range.
Right.
So it's a whole different ballgame. So
it's
what I agree with UIL, it's definitely a numbers game. So we're able to qualify there. So we have district, and then we get a week off. So it's 2 weeks between district and regionals, and then it's another 2 weeks between regionals and state. So our training officially opens up in January. And if you're fortunate enough to have anybody go to state, your season goes all the way through mid-May. Yeah, I think this year it's the 10th through the 12th. So it's a pretty long outdoor season out here. Again, when you can train outdoor for a while. Pretty much everywhere in Texas, to be quite honest with you. I don't really see a lot of areas that are, cold like where you guys are at. But so yeah, that's kind of our outdoor season out here. It's pretty long.
So jumping back real quick here, you said the UIL says you guys need to have 7 meets. So can you, like,
we
for example,
yeah.
You can have up to 7 meets. Can you walk us through your schedule, say, like, for this calendar year? Like, what are you looking at?
Absolutely.
How far are they spaced?
Yeah, so, like, it's a really, really weird. And so every time I try to talk to, like, other high school coaches, like anybody at different states, like you guys or Chicago or Rhode Island, the coaches that I know, it's hard to try to look at each other's like training because it's so different. So we hear, again, we don't have dual meets. We don't compete against anybody during the week. And so our the majority of the meets that we enter are 2 days. So the past 3 weeks we've competed on Friday, and that's when you generally have like prelims. You have qualifying for the 100, the 200 hurdles, the open 2, 4, all that stuff. And then if you qualify top 8, then you get to compete the next day for finals. So what ends up happening is it's really hard on a high school kid. For example, I'll give you one of our girls right now. Just yesterday and the last 2 days, she competed in the open 100 hurdles, and then she qualified for that. She threw disc, and then she came back and ran for us in the 4x1, 4x2. And the 100 hurdle finals, as an example. So that's a tough task, over the course of 2 days. My freshman girl, she ran open 1, open 2 on Friday, qualified for both, and then came back and ran open 1 finals, open 2 finals, and then 4x1, and then did high jump. So she ran 4 races and 1 field event in the span of 2 days, and that's a 14-year-old body. So it's something that you definitely have to consider. So like what you're talking about is we are going to have this schedule for 7 weeks in a row where we do 2-day meets for we have about another month worth of that. And then we have a week off. That's on purpose to let our kids' bodies rest. And then we have district, and then those that qualify 2 more weeks before we go to regionals. And then after that, anybody that qualifies for state, another 2 weeks. So that's how we have it set up. And our district meet, is over the span of 3 days. And I'm very thankful for that because, it kind of spreads out the events. So the reason why we end up competing in so many 2-day meets is that's how regionals is like. Regionals is 2 days. District is over 3 days. So we want their bodies to be able to go through multiple rounds and then be able to, so that when you get to district and regionals and, the championship part of the season, they're already used to it. The only meet that's not like that is state. State, it's a 1-day meet because it's all timed finals, 2 from each region, plus the next best time. It's only 1 race.
Yep.
Yeah, it's only 1 race. So that's by the time we get over there, it's only 1 day.
You touched on a bunch of stuff I want to jump around and ask questions about.
Okay.
Particularly, it's like the 3-day format. I guess the 3-day format in the city. So for us in Michigan here, we have everything's 1 day. We have now we're fortunate that we've had some rule changes that your lane races for the majority of them have it's more semifinal, all FAT based. But you go back not that many years ago, they would make them do prelim semifinal on the same day.
Wow, that's crazy.
So we're putting kids through. Just your typical. Imagine if you have a kid you think that has a chance in the 1 and the 2, maybe he can even jump a little bit, or can hurdle a little bit. You're asking them to do 9 races on a given day, and
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a whole other ball game. So I guess my question would just be like, I don't know if you know the history of how that came to be in Texas or what that took and the logistics behind that. Obviously, just having like you said, 2 from each region, and 1 additional kid, that clearly makes things pretty simple. But if there's more to that.
Yeah, I don't know quite the history behind that. We do offer 1-day meets here in El Paso as well. Like they'll have a boys only meet or a girls only meet. But again, to me as a coach, I'm concerned about what is it going to look like at championship time. So I want my kids to be able to get used to that. as far as, the two qualifying for each, I don't know when the governing body decided to do that, other than I think that's the fairest way, because really, if you look, and I'm sure you guys have a account on either MileSpread or Athletic.net or whatever, you take a look at those times. If that was the case, at the state final, it would be 9 kids from Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth area. Maybe every 10 years we would have an El Paso kid there. It's just a different thing, but same case is El Paso. We have, we're mostly long distance. We do a lot of long distance, and we have a lot of success over here long distance wise. For the most part, like the cross country state champions, 4A, 3-time defending state champions are, it's a little school right down the road. So that's how it's set up that way, so that, every school has an opportunity to kind of have fair representation. So it's kind of fair for us here in El Paso. But so I'll give you like a little quick story. There was the state defending champion in the 100 hurdles last year, 110 hurdles, was from the Houston area. So he went into district with a tight hamstring, from what I understand, and so he placed 3rd in his district. Well, they have an area meet, so he was going to compete that next week because they take top 4. Well, Houston has flooding issues, so they cancel the area meet, which means that they then only take the top 2. So you have last year's 110-meter champion not even being able to compete at our area the next week because of the format. So it's fair, but, you're always going to have your hiccups here and there. But the reason it's set up that way is so that it kind of has fair representation throughout the state.
I remember hearing about that. That was a tough break for that kid.
Yeah, man. I think he signed a scholarship, so he was okay. But imagine you being a senior and you want to defend your title, and you probably being giving your body, for the meets that counted. And then, Mother Nature says, no, that's not going to happen. It's just, that was a tough situation.
Yeah. That's not tight. I don't know, man. I understand that. I guess just here, we still have regional qualifiers. So, if you win the region, you qualify. Or, it's actually top 2 in your regional if you qualify. And then from that point, anyone else who hits the time standard gets into the state meet. So I like that because, what if you're in a tough region,
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I agree with you 100%.
So I don't know. I do love the multiple day format, because what's goofy about us here is that we do indoor track. No, I'm serious. We do indoor track. It's not sanctioned by the it's club, so it's it's a little bit different. But that's a 2-day meet, and this is the second year in a row we did a 2-day meet with it, and I thought it went great.
I think our kids like it. I think it makes for an interesting training week for you as a coach. You kind of have to think about what are you going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It kind of puts you in that position. But it kind of makes you be creative. And, again, when you schedule your meets, you have to, should I go to a 1-day meet, 2-day meet? We always go to a 2-day meet because, again, that's how district and regionals is going to be. The only meet that's not like that is state. And even state now, they started doing jumping events on a different day. They started doing jumping events on, I think, the day before, too, whereas before they would all have them on one day. So they've even started adding those. So to me, multiple day events, especially if you're going to have qualifying times, you have to make it over a 2-day standard or 3-day period, because 1 day it's not fair to the kids.
Yeah, it's not how. That's not for us, man. I don't think there are any 2-day outdoor meets.
Not that
at all,
in
the entire state.
Yeah,
No,
not that I know of. No.
It's
and we have dual meets.
We do have dual meets.
And we have dual
You guys
meets.
have dual meets in the middle of the week, right? Yeah.
A lot of them.
Tuesday
is something special.
Now, let me ask you something serious here, because we know. I've never heard of this. The first time I ever heard of this, I think I bought one of Latif's products, and I'm like, dual meet on a Tuesday. I'm like, well, what if you don't have a dual meet? What the hell is it doing? Like, I have no idea what that is.
Okay.
Like, do you guys actually take those seriously, or do you just kind of take them as training? I mean, what do you guys do with those?
A little bit of both. Because, so for our conference, we can only speak for Skyline, right? And then the Southeastern Conference is the conference name for what we're in.
Okay.
There's 12 teams, and it's split into two divisions. One side has what we call the big schools, enrollments of, I don't know, we'll call it like 1,500 and up.
Yeah.
The other side has the smaller schools, enrollments of like 1,200 and down. So within our conference, we have, I think, 3 duals and 1 double dual, or a triangular meet.
Okay.
And so, yeah, as a coach, absolutely, there's one aspect of, hey, this is how we kind of have the team, in the individualized sport, we can promote this team atmosphere through these dual meets, right? Like it's a clear-cut win-loss. You have a that's a winner, you have a team that's a loser. And through that, we can crown a conference champion as a team.
Okay.
So there's some pluses to it. Other things being just teaching kids how to be savvy racers. You know, you have more opportunities to compete in that smaller environment, that more tighter environment. But you know, like, I mean, it's a grind. It's a grind for the kids for sure. We go through a 5-week stretch of, if say you go to an invitational every weekend. Well, dude, that's Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, Saturday.
Wow, yeah.
It kills you, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, I could see that. Like over here, they do have triangular meets. I know that some schools do take part in that. And though that triangular meet does not count against the 7 that you can have, the only thing is by UIR rules, you cannot have any like time away from school. So it has to happen after school. And I just don't know how many teams are willing to turn on the lights just so that 2 teams can, compete against each other. But yeah, so it's definitely different. But you brought up a good point of it can be exhausting, Yeah. And so that's what we have to take into account when you go. We go Friday, Saturday, and like I'll give you a perfect example. Last week we were at Parkland High School, which is only 20 minutes away from our high school. If even that 20 minutes with traffic, it's like 15. Yeah. But we were having issues with the timing system again. Well, we didn't get out of there till 11:30. Well, the next day, field event started at 8:30, which means that we have to meet at the school at 7, which means so that we can be there at 7:30 so the kids have at least an hour to warm up or, do what they need to do. And, I mean, that can become a grind. So you have a kid that, let's say, ran, because the 200 is the last race during prelims. So you might have somebody that just ran the 2, and then, you guys know that whenever you have a sprint, most of the times there are also jumpers. So you have a kid that ran like a race at 9:30, has to come back and jump at, I don't know, at 8:30, and then they have to run the 4x1 and then finals at 4x2 much later in the afternoon. So it does become a grind on the body. So as a high school coach, that's one of the biggest things that I'm always concerned about is long-term health. What am I doing for this kid health-wise to make sure that I'm not. So that's why I asked, is how competitive are those meets? And, it does become a source of, like in the meet we were at yesterday, there was only like 8 or 9 teams. So how important is it to win? I mean, you do want to have success. You do want to come back on the team bus, telling the kids, hey, we PR'd, and you want to celebrate those successes. But ultimately, in the long run, unfortunately, the way it works in track and field, at least for us, is there's only one meet that counts, and that's district. Because after district, if you're not top 2, sorry, but you're 5 months worth of training or 4, whatever, you're just going to stay home, and that's tough on a kid.
Yeah.
Right. That's tough because it's like you said it. It's where do you want to draw that line? For these kids, and for those kids that are younger, the more developmental ones, they get a ton of value out of those meets.
Yes.
And then you talk about in that dual meet setting, especially again, I can only speak for us down here in the SEC of Michigan. Man, it's brutal. It is brutal, dude. Like, if you look at the indoor state meet, the first 3 girls in the 400, 1, 2, and 3 are all from Ann Arbor.
And you guys, that's exactly where you guys are located, right?
Right, right. It was one of our girls, and then 1 girl from each high school, actually, of all 3 in Ann Arbor.
Wow.
And then you look at, like, on the boys' side, some of the top distance runners in the entire state are from the Ann Arbor area. And these kids are just crazy, they're wailing in the 4x8, coming back into the mile, coming back into the 800, and it's a slugfest. And it's like, and you're right. And then you're pulling kids out of school early to do this.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance.
On one side, it's good for competition, but you got to just be smart about your plan. And
Yeah.
Always find a way to use that dual meet as a workout, no matter what. I
Yeah,
mean, you can
absolutely.
still compete. You can still compete in your main events, and then take your kid and put them on the D 4x4. Okay,
Right.
now we're finishing up your workout. You know what I'm saying? Good job.
Yeah,
today.
yeah, absolutely.
So that you can at least
absolutely.
get that day of rest on Monday and that day of rest on Wednesday. So
Yeah.
you got to get creative and do it the best you can.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's when sort of my whole mindset of these meets sort of changed. And I forget when it happened. I think it was probably pretty early, like at Chapin, where they told me you have to treat these meets as training. You can't. I don't know that we want to get too deep into training, but you have to take these meets as training. And so we actually had this discussion just yesterday because I've had a lot of kiddos that are running the 4 that keep telling me, Coach, I'm not in shape to run in the 4x4. And I'm like, well, what does in shape mean? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they're like, Coach, well, I don't feel like I'm again, and I say this in quotes, even though you guys can't see me, and my air quotes are, what does in shape actually mean? But when I have a girl, and girls are on the track a little bit longer, so that means that you have to do a more aerobic work, just a little bit more for the girls. And so when I tell the girls, well, what can I do at practice? Nothing that I do at practice is going to replicate a 400 than actually running a 400. Nothing is going to get you prepared for a 400. We can do all the, whatever your philosophy is, right? We can do all the Clyde Hart stuff. We can do all the speed, special endurance. We can do all that until you're blue in the face. Nothing is going to allow you to run a better 4 than actually running a 400 at a meet against other people.
Yep.
And so you have to get it across to these kids that we have to use these meets as training. And a lot of them, we call it booty lock. They walk off the track and, their butts out and it's cramping and, we call it booty lock because, and so, but Coach, I don't feel like I'm trained. Well, you are, because right now you're training. This is part of your week's training right now. Now do you want me to kill you on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, have you a little bit easier workout on Thursday, and then still come back and run 2 sets of 400s Friday and Saturday, and then maybe a leg on the 4x4? There's just no way. Your body can't handle that. I guess it could if I was some sort of tormentor from the, just one of whatever. I didn't really care about your body. But long term, I'm concerned about your health. I have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just fun to hear the differences, because, actually, Takashi and I were just talking about it the other day. It's just sometimes you look at a week span, one of your best kids could have almost 10 races in a span of 7 days.
Right.
God almighty, yeah.
And that's tough.
And you have to, as much as you want to race them all the time, and we all want to win, right? If it's a dual meet or if it's the state championship, whatever, we all want to win. But ultimately, you have to. What matters? What matters the most? What really matters the most for coaching. And to me, it's the kids' health and their safety and their well-being, and that they have a good experience. That's to me. And winning, I don't care who you talk to. Does winning matter? Yeah, hell yeah, it matters. You want to win. I want to be successful. I'm just as competitive as the next person. I think the reason why I coach is that I was such a sucky athlete that I couldn't. The thing that I could do to get closest to being competitive is being a coach. So yeah, you definitely want to win, but at what expense? And so to me, when I tell, and I'm sure you have, you're a girls' head coach. I'm a girls' head coach. When you look into those girls' eyes and you tell them, hey, I care about you, we care about you, and then you turn around and you run somebody in a 2-day meet in a 800, 400, 4x4, okay, Coach, do you really care about me? Come on, let's be honest here. So that's one of those things that you have to consider. But I can appreciate the differences that we train and how we compete and what you guys have up there in Michigan.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it off the script, but I'm sure it definitely affects the way training is done too, because you got to prepare them for it, because it's just the inevitable piece of it. Do we like having 2 meets a week? No, not at all. But we see the value when we have to do it, so you have to get the appropriate plan in place to A, make sure they can recover, and also B, prepare them for what they're going to see. So
absolutely, yeah.
It's a fun chess game.
That's exactly what it becomes, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember talking earlier, you said you had a chance to meet a lot of different coaches. Is that just from traveling through clinics, or how is that? How do those opportunities come about where you just had a chance to meet these great folks and build relationships with them?
You know, I want to say my second year at Chapin, man, I started coming up on something where I knew that the way we were training, I just wasn't happy with it. It had nothing to do with the head coaches. We were all young. I think like our oldest coach at the time was like 31 or something. So what we were doing, I just wasn't happy with. So I started getting online and I started trying to find the resources. And this is, I don't know, like 08, 09. And so, I mean, you guys know how the internet now, there's so much information. But even back then, there was a lot of information. Mm-hmm. But I kept coming back to this website, Complete Track and Field. I kept coming back to that, man. And so Lateef Thomas, who's the owner, became like a big, huge influence on me. And so through the years, probably through like 5 or 6 years, I bought just about every single thing that he had. I became a loyal customer. And they always had these summer clinics. And I live in Texas. That's all the way in, I think they have it in Harvard. And I was like, there's just, that's ridiculous. That's insane. So not this summer, but the summer before, I said, I'm going to work summer school. I'm going to save some money. I'm going to get on a plane, and I'm going to go over there. And I'm going to go see what these guys do. Now, by this point in time, 6, 7 years, I've been loyal to the website, and I buy all this stuff. So I've already chatted with these guys online, like Lateef and Ron Grigg and Gabe Sanders, the guy that you guys know. All these guys, I've been talking and chatting with them, but I've never really established like a face-to-face. So I work summer school, and I have enough money, and I get my plane ticket. I pay for everything. My hotel, everything's ready. And then my buddy says, hey, man, I want to go with you. So I'm like, what do you mean you want to go with me? So I canceled my plane ride, and we drove up there 2.5 days from Texas, El Paso, Texas, which is right on the edge of New Mexico. Right on the edge of New Mexico. So we're not talking like we're in Beaumont, Texas, where you're right next to Louisiana. We're like really as far west Texas as you can get. Like I can drive 10 minutes right now and be in New Mexico. Man. We're like, hey, what? It sounds like a smart plan. Let's get on a car and drive 2.5 days to Boston University. I should say Harvard University. And that's exactly what we did. We drove up there.
Or somewhere, right? Like two guys from El Paso hop into a car and drive.
Yeah, exactly right. Harvard. Yeah. This is gonna have about the corniest punchline ever. Yeah. So we get on, and we drive. One night all the way. I don't know. I said like Dallas, maybe, or Oklahoma. I don't even remember, man. We were so sleep deprived. We literally get there. That clinic started at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. We were driving 16-hour days, guys. I mean, it was bad. It felt like the Canterbury Tales, where they're like walking forever. They're just sort of like it's one of those like pilgrimage almost. Yeah. And we got to Harvard campus at 8:45 in the morning because we were going to bed at about 1. We were waking up at 5. It was bad. We get there, and I just got to spend time with all these guys, all these articles, all these videos, all these products that I had ever bought. They were right there in my face, man. And so I said, look, I want to be here for about 36 hours. While I'm here for 36 hours, I need to establish whatever relationships I can. So I see Lateef, and again, I'm trying not to be a fanboy. So I see him, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm Mari. I've emailed you about 100 million times in the last 5 years. How are you? And so we just start talking. And then at the end of the night, they have these like a coaches clinic where people present. And I remember Tony Vini presented. And I want to say Dave Cusano presented. He's like a small college coach, but he's a guy like some genius because he's only like they're only outdoor maybe like, I don't know, for 2 months or something, maybe even less. And so we look at that. And then so the clinic finishes, and I'm now just kind of walking and about. And I see Gabe, and I recognize Gabe's pictures, but I've never talked to the guy. Mm-hmm. And I sat down with Gabe Sanders, who at the time was at Boston University. And I just started like talking to him. He has no idea who I am. He just knows that he's seen me in the clinic. And that's how it really went with everybody, man. The same thing with Ron Grigg. When I was there, I don't know, man. I felt that if I had made this commitment, 2.5 hour ride out there, I might as well make the most of it. So I got Gabe's number. I got Ron's number. I got Lateef's number. I got Tony Vini's number. Like everybody on there, the CTF family. And, I mean, we just, for whatever reason, I think maybe because I bugged the hell out of them. And so now what it's like is if I have a question, I'll literally just email them or text them, and within 5 minutes I have a response. Like I think Ron will respond as I'm typing the email. What's his name? Seriously. Yeah, like, wait a minute, I think I have an email. Gabe will text you. Gabe, just last week I asked him something. He was boarding a plane, I think, for right before whatever their conference championships is, or last chance to go to indoor nationals. Yeah. As he's boarding the plane, I'm texting him, and he's like, hey, man, I'm about to board the flight, but good luck, and here's your answer to your question. Latif has a really weird, like, sleeping schedule, and so it'll be like 9. I'll ask him a question, like, on a Tuesday, and then on a Thursday, like, at midnight, he'll respond. And I'm like, okay. So then, we'll have, like, these 3-4 hour text conversations just going back and forth. But I think for me, man, it really was just I needed to commit to the idea that I was going to be able to establish relationships with not good coaches, not great coaches. I think I have relationships with some of the best coaches in the country at each level, and I can't tell you how helpful they've been, man. They're so humble, and I'm so gracious to be able to, just bounce ideas off of these amazing coaches.
Yeah. You have any memorable moments from any of those that just kind of stick out at you? Or just just that whole trip in general?
Well, I mean, the trip itself was ridiculous. The idea that we're leaving on a Thursday, I guess it's over 2,000 miles. The trip itself it's not as fun as it sounds. Like, you think road trips, but really it's just two grown, middle-aged men in their 30s going cross country. Maybe if we were, like, in college, it would be a lot more fun. Right. But it's just two, like, egotistical old dudes who were just like talking track and field. And so it's not as fun as it sounds. But the best memory was from that trip, where I kind of alluded to the story, was when I was talking to Gabe, man. He was at the hotel lobby, I think, just kind of watching TV. And I just go up to him and I start talking to him. And again, he has no clue who I am. I know who he is, but he has no idea who I am. And so we just start chatting. And I tried to be that savant guy who tries to impress him, like I started talking extensive tempo and progressions and microcycles, and he looks at me, and within like 2 minutes I was like, oh, I made a mistake, because he started talking like about things that I never heard about in my life. So I'm like, okay, I need to slow it down. And the moment I slowed it down, he started speaking to me in a way that I understood everything. And so right away I knew that this guy was a big fan of the sport. And the other memory was, of course, Latif, getting to talk to him, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen these clinics or whatever, but they have over, it's hundreds of kids. I'm going to say like 200 to 300 kids, probably dozens of coaches. And the fact that he just stopped and talked to me for an entire hour and answered all of my questions, again, just speaks to their passion of the sport and their humility. So, yeah, to me, that was fun, man.
That's cool. I wish I could do that.
You're a lot closer than I am. You're a lot closer than I am.
Oh, I know, yeah. No, I mean, we have our own. I mean, we're lucky that we have some great relationships with some really talented coaches,
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
We got we know a lot of older guys who are now officials. Lucky enough to work with those guys, and I mean, each one of those guys has just won multiple state championships this year after year while they were coaching, and now they just love the sport. And I know I'm privileged by just being able to talk to them.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis. Yeah, sit there and have a couple of have a couple beers with them and listen to them tell some great stories and give you advice and things you never thought about, because at the end of the day they were successful too, and there was a reason why,
Yeah. Well, and the reason you have to appreciate those guys is those guys were successful before the internet age, before you had so much information available to you. Yep. Those guys were probably making up their workouts just based off of whatever they had available at their disposal.
Oh yeah.
And so, man, yeah, when you have those coaches that available to you, just talking to them, you're just you're kind of caught in a daze of how they did it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, every mistake you and I have made, they've made it 2-3 times over. And they've learned from it.
And learn from it. From it. And so we don't have to endure the same pain. We can learn from their stories,
Yep.
Not to say that you and I haven't made mistakes, because I think there's not a day goes by where I'm like, well, there's another kid I jacked up. But you've got you've got to learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that's kind of like how through those relationships that you build, like you said, like, I mean, you guys, well, through your friend, you guys drove out to Harvard all the way from El Paso, but, you going online and searching and not being afraid to ask people questions. Like, is that how your relationship with Freelap came about?
With Freelap, it was a little different, but it was pretty much the same situation with Freelap. So it was that same summer with Freelap. I had a junior girl who's now running at Texas Tech University. She's just one of these girls who you just don't know how often you're going to be able to coach. This was a girl that came to us when she was a freshman, and I got to coach her for 3 years. I didn't get to coach her when she was a freshman, but I got to coach her as a sophomore, junior, and senior. Her junior year, she was experiencing a lot of hamstring issues. She was having a lot of hamstring tightness, could never quite figure it out. So I get online, and I'm reading these articles out of these two coaches from the Chicago area. And they keep talking about this Be Activated thing, Be Activated. I'm like, what the hell is Be Activated, and how does it fix these, like, hamstring issues? So they're having a conference in Chicago. So with my summer school money, this time I'm not stupid enough to drive. I actually fly. And I flew out to a conference out there. And the guy's name is Tony Holler. He's like he's in the Illinois Hall of Fame over there. He's like some sort of a genius when it comes to coaching sprinters. And I start talking to him, and he keeps telling me that he uses their training system is so crazy. All they do is flight 10s and acceleration 30s. That's all they ever do, and then they compete. So he starts talking about this Freelap thing, and I'm like, what the hell is this Freelap thing? And so he shows me, and they have it there at the symposium. But I look at the price tag. I'm like, dude, our budget isn't even that big. I can't afford this. You're out of your mind. So what came about is he told me that he actually writes for Freelap, or what is now Simply Faster. And what they're able to do is when you write for them, they hook you up with the products. The owner is his name's Christopher Glazer. He does he's the one that puts up all these different articles for Simply Faster now. And so whenever I came back, I just sent him an email. I said, hey man, I'd love to have your devices. Reality is that we can't afford them. Is there anything that I can do? And he's like, yeah, we need more high school writers. Would you be willing to write at the high school level? I'm like, well, now you're talking. Yeah. And since then, I've written, I think it's like 6 articles now for Freelap and Simply Faster. And I've just written about kind of everything that you and I have talked about, how we train and my trips to Boston and Chicago and all these different things. And that's how I was able to come across that relationship. And it's been one of the most influential relationships as well, because we're probably the only team, maybe one of the few teams in town that has these like laser things that get to measure, how fast you run. Mm-hmm. And I think they're like, I want to say, whatever their marketing thing is, they say, if you can't measure it, you can, or if you can't time it, you can measure, or whatever it is. But it's the idea that if you can measure something, you're able to get some good predictions. And so we use those probably at least once a week, just to see where we are with the training. And it's really cool. I mean, to be able to have a Freelap and timing system, something that the pros use, the kids love it. Right now, I think I have like 8 of those little chip things that they can wear, and we can time it. But what's come about it for me is that when you write, and I don't know if you guys have done this through the podcast, but whenever you write or whenever you talk to somebody, you're really able to like reflect on things. Mm. You're really able to like question what you're doing. And so, yeah, it's cool to have lasers, and yeah, it's cool to be able to write for a website, but really you have to it sucks, but you have to be able to like reflect on what you're doing. And when you reflect, man, oh my God, it's painful, but you grow from it. And yeah. I think for me, that's probably been the best part of that relationship with Simply Faster.
That's cool, but it's also real cool to have lasers.
Yeah, no, it is. Don't get me wrong. Well, if there was only a way I could use it to fix my 4x1 girls, but that's another story for a different time.
Yeah. No, that's cool though, man. That's a good way to get a nice relationship going. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, and everything with Gabe, with Latif, with all those guys, with Tony. with Ron Gregg at Jacksonville. I've always reached out, and if I come across as a pest, I have, man. I've sometimes sent them 6, 7 messages, text or email where they don't reply. And I think like on the 8th one, they're like, all right, man, Jesus, we're going to get back to you. But the idea is, to me, the only reason why I've been able to enjoy the sport so much, and the only reason why I've been able to have, some type of success with the kids is by being able to pick the brains of the best in this industry, man, including, listening to you guys, talking to everybody. And I think if you can share ideas, man, that's really the best of it.
Yeah, man. This has been great. I tell Takashi about this all the time. This podcast has been great. Just for what you said, I think you said it perfectly. It makes you reflect. Just hearing different perspectives and different circumstances. It's kind of always a good way to make you look in the mirror and say, well, is this, you feeling good about this?
Well,
I appreciate it. I always appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, and sometimes you're on cloud 9. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. You're kind of patting yourself on the back to where your arms are a little sore, and then you talk to somebody who knows like way more than you'll ever know in your life. You're like, okay, time to tone it down a little bit, dude.
Yeah.
So it's cool from that aspect as well. It kind of tones you. It just keeps you humble. It really does. So it's been cool, man. It's been fun.
That's how it was when I met Bruce Schexnayder. It was funny because I never felt so smart and dumb at the same time. Because I was like, I picked up his concept. I get what he's saying. Wait a minute, he said it so simply. Am I the idiot?
Yeah, man.
It blew my head off. So this has been great.
He's got some DVDs, I think, with Sack Speed, but he also made them for like Complete Track and Field. And I remember watching like the first 10 minutes of his video, and I already had about 2 pages worth of notes in 2 minutes. I'm like, where is this headed? What is going on?
Right.
And at the time I was already coaching like 6 years, and I'm like, this guy just spouted 10 minutes of information, and I've been coaching for 6 years, and I don't know any of this. Yet he was able to put it in a way that I understand it. So those are the types of like things that I'm sure when you guys talk to him, you went back and listened to it, and you're like, okay, let me pause, and let me write down some notes. And then you listen to it again, and you're like, okay, let me pause again, because the guy, he just knows so much.
Oh yeah, that's been fun. And then, we also have another great coach that I love talking to all the time. He was a longtime coach at U of M. His name's Ron Warhurst. He did crazy stuff. We've been friends with him for a while, but when we did a podcast, we even learned more about him. Apparently, he won the Big Ten cross country championship in his very first year.
Wow.
No, he said the first 3 years, didn't he?
First 3 years, yeah.
First 3 years.
Like that, they just kind of gave him the reins. Long story short, and then he has some amazing guys on the team, and he was familiar with them, and man, he was just kicking ass from day one.
From the very beginning, he's like, "All right, I'm here. What are you gonna do about it?"
Exactly.
Oh man.
And so now he coaches Nick Willis.
Okay.
And so.
And his son goes to Skyline. And that's and runs for.
That's the connection right there.
That's the big one.
Well, no, we just know him because he's just an active, guy he's a bit of a nut, but he's fun to talk to.
So we used to deal with coach. Now we deal with dad.
Yeah.
It's a different relationship, a little bit different.
A little bit different.
That's always interesting. I think I told you guys a story of my buddy who's also a head coach, but he's also a parent, and that's such a touchy thing, because so much, or at least you think you know so much, right? And then you're like, well, I don't know. And so it's like a double-edged sword. Like you want to let your kid be a kid, and you want to let the coaches coach, but you're like, oh man, like how involved should I be, or should I back off, or whatever. But it's an interesting dynamic that you guys are dealing with now.
Yeah,
it's a healthy one because Ron as a dad is hilarious.
Yeah,
he just hands off, and he's just like I said, man, you're there for my son, you're taking care of him, great.
Good.
Man.
Right.
Does he attend your practices?
not too often. He's popped by sometimes.
Mm.
He's the kind of guy where he'll never volunteer it. He'll let you do your thing. But if you ask him a question, he's going to answer it immediately and completely.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what's great about him. Yeah.
Yeah. A 5-minute conversation turns into like one of those learning experiences. Yeah. That's fun too, man. Yeah.
Well, he just always, you know, I mean, he coached almost 37 years, I think, maybe more.
Jeez.
And when you get with a guy like that, they know things about how to work that have nothing to do with training workouts or anything to do with that. They just kind of have a feel for what a kid needs right now.
All right.
And it could be everything from what they're getting ready to train with or what you need to say to them before the race.
Mm-hmm.
You know? What does Ron always say? The last thing you tell them before the race is the first thing that they always forget.
Always.
You know?
That's man, and you know, that's what no coaching talk, nothing can tell you. You know, there's no clinic that you can go to that you're going to learn that, because every kid is built differently. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned from like Latif. He's like, dude, man, I can tell you all my workouts. I can give you what I do on a daily basis, but my stuff is so easy and simple. It's the mental belief that I instill in these kids. If a kid believes in your program, you can run them slow for 8 months out of the year. I mean, obviously I'm over-exaggerating. Or you can go speed twice a week, and then that's all you do. If your kid believes in the system, they're going to go out and compete for you because, you know, of how much they believe in themselves and what you guys are doing together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much of that relationship building, whereas I think we were talking about this at the our last Coaches Association clinic. You know, we've all been there. As a young coach, you're sitting there and you're listening to all these speakers talking, and you're sitting there like, damn it, just give me your best workout, and A plus B always equals C, and just what's the plug and play method here?
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, dude, that's not how it works.
No. We've all wanted that. Yeah.
As much as you want to wish.
That was me probably like my first, I don't know, 8 or 9 years. Like, all right, just tell me what you do. Tell me what you do. And I want your workouts to the T. How do you warm up? How do you cool down? What do you do in the weight room? Tell me everything that you can do. When the coaches are like, no, man, that's not the way it works. You know, and so with experience, you learn that. But, you know, like you said, the young me was like, just give me everything I can do to make this kid better. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've been lucky, you know, and like I was telling you before, we had that coach from Pioneer who was there, you know, for 40 years. He was the best ever. And I got a chance to share an office with him for a long time, you know, good 10 years. That's awesome, man.
And, you know, I tell you what I learned from him was how to push buttons. You know, he knew the right time to push the right button to get the right response. Because they always started out fast. You know, just competed to stay there, and then right around championship time, this team is hitting on all cylinders. And, and I just saw on a day-to-day basis where it was not necessarily the work they were doing, it's just how they were doing it, and just how he just was a puppet master of everything. It was just, it's what it was. It's what it was, you know. There were just days that he was just hard just because.
Just for the sake of doing it,
just for the sake of doing it, just to put them under duress, because he's like, his philosophy is, you know, they're going to be nervous. You got to put them in uncomfortable situations sometimes.
There was, I want to say I think Michael Phelps' coach, I don't know his name. I want to say it's Bowman. Maybe I'm incorrect in saying that.
Yeah, it is Bowman.
But he said that he would, before big meets, you know, like the trials, or he would like place his like water or his nose plug or his glasses, or he like mess with his bag just to like mentally mess with him. You know, you have this like athlete, you know, probably the greatest Olympian, or at least, you know, aquatic Olympian of all time, where you could, you know, you just mess with him. And that's, again, that goes back to coaching. Can a kid handle that? Do you need to be softer with a kid? What kid can you push? What kid can you ignore, but you're doing it for a reason, you know, like very Phil Jackson-esque, if you will, versus, you know, just yelling in their face all the time. like a dictator or something. And that to me, man, that's when you know that you've kind of you've understood your team. That's to me that to me is coaching. Because I'm sure there's so many training regimens and philosophies that cross over between what you and what we do, I'm sure. But it's, how do we handle the kids, and when are we going to push them, or when are we going to lay back, and when are we going to let them recover? I think to me that's sort of what you call the science and art of coaching.
Absolutely. So we talked earlier that you guys are already in season, and you just came off of a nice weekend competition. I'm looking at the results online, and you had some nice times. How are you guys feeling about your season coming up and moving forward?
Man, we've had a good season. This is my first year as the head coach, so I think anytime there's like a little bit of a change, people get excited. There's a different energy. Not to say that our old head coach didn't have that, because our old head coach, she was Mama Bear. She was the glue. She was the glue to last year's team. Last year was the first time in school history where we won the regional title. To say that you won a regional title in the state of Texas, like, it carries a lot of weight. Like, I know you guys talk about like winning state. For us, that we qualify, I mean, that's a pretty huge deal. So she was Mama Bear, but now literally she is Mama Bear. She's got 2 kids, so that's why she had to resign as head coach. So I took over. I try to bring a little bit of more excitement, And so right now the season looks good, but what I always try to say is, and I think this is as good as anybody else, is we just got to stay healthy, man. I know it sounds cliche, but we've got to stay healthy. We have a very talented group. Like yesterday, I put what how you have like your B 4x4 or your A 4x4. Like yesterday, I put my girls like A++ 4x2 team together just to kind of see what it would look like. And I think we almost ran a school record time. I want to say we went 145 high, and I'd never and that was with one bad handoff. Although 4x2 handoffs I think are imaginary. Sometimes they don't really exist.
Yeah.
But it was it went well, man. We've been running some good times. The thing at Chapin, I think I told you guys this during the pre-interview, was we get a lot of military kids, so we have a lot of high turnover. So sometimes we'll have a stud for a year and then they leave us. Sometimes we get somebody for like a month, literally, and then they disappear. We just got this girl from California who came in as a sub. I think her personal lifetime best was 13:03. Well, week 2, she went 12:05. Now, granted, it was a little bit wind dated, so I don't want to pat myself too much on the back, but she goes 12:05. She's just a freak athlete, just one of those girls that. So she entirely, just one girl changed our dynamic because she's so unselfish. We have her on the 4x1, have her on the 4x2. Just high jump last week for the first time in a long time. Long jumped last week like a 16-1. She had never long jumped in her life, and she goes 16-1. So you have athletes like that just kind of transform your program. So the pieces are in place, man. We have a lot of good athletes. Very, very fortunate. But again, you don't really know from week to week if they're gonna like stay. Sometimes they get orders like a week before.
Wow.
And that's really a tough thing to deal with. Like, we have a sophomore girl who is a pretty good miler. I think she just won like 5:23. I think her lifetime best is like 5:17. She's pretty good, but she's only a sophomore. Well, right now it looks like they're gonna ship out, and as a coach, you're like, oh man, like that just breaks your heart. Right. But then we just got a girl from Virginia at the beginning of the year. Now, I think it's my fault as a coach is she's having some issues right now, but she's gone 224 before her season best right now is 229. But she's been an integral part of our 4x4. So you have all these different athletes who I didn't even have a year ago, who now I have this year. So as a coach, you're just very fortunate sometimes, at least at our school, where you're just going to get a kid who's a beast. But at the same time, they may leave. So to answer your question, what is our season looking like? I hope that we can set some school records. I hope that we can qualify as many of the regionals as possible. I'm hoping that we can get 1 or 2 of them to state. And then we'll see, man. I mean, 4 years ago, I was very fortunate to coach a long jumper in the state title. He jumped 24-2. Went on to jump. Yeah, he's a Division I jumper. He decided to focus on football at the local university here at UTEP. But so, I've been coaching 9 years, and like you talk about the guy that you said was at your old high school, he had 17 state titles. Well, I've had one individual state champion, and I'm hoping that wasn't the best of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's tough, man. It's so hard. Like, we qualified a 4x1 to state last year that went 48-3. But we get out there and we placed 8th out of 9 teams. The winning time was a 46-1.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you ask me how, I hope our team does well. But this, man. What I love about track and field is you can measure it, and as long as we're seeing growth, as long as the times are dropping, as long as you're seeing the kids do well, man, that's really what matters. I'm hoping everybody stays healthy and we have a great season, man. I hope we set a ton of PRs as the season continues.
Yeah, that's exciting. I wish I was in the season. We don't start for another 2 weeks.
Also, you guys are in between right now.
8 days. 8 days.
Yeah, 8 days. Yeah, 8 days. Sorry.
Who's counting? But who's counting, right?
Yeah.
Us track nerds, man. We're counting down the days, man. We know our schedule back and forth, don't we?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're on the Google Doc going like a perfect mind on this thing, man. Like beautiful mind. I mean,
man.
Crazy on it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, what do we do?
Yeah.
every little thing, man.
Yeah.
And you know what? Last Tuesday when we had the day off, because of the winds, I stayed in my office till like 6 to catch up on paperwork and stuff like that. But my assistants were like, "Coach, I don't know what to do, man. Like, should I go work out?" Or I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. You're a grown man. Go do something, But like, we don't know what to do with our time. Like, we don't know. We're so invested in this process, or it's all about the kids and the program. So you have one day off. You're like, I had plenty of paperwork to keep myself busy. I was in the office till 6:30, but those guys are like, I'm like, I don't know, man. Go watch a movie. Go Netflix it up. I don't know what to tell you. Go grade. Go catch up on your grades. I don't know, man. Yeah. But, it was one of those things. So, I understand what you guys are going through, man. I have my track withdrawal as soon as the season's over as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just, when you're in, for me at least, when you're indoors this long, you just get fidgety. Kind of just sick and tired of being inside. And so I think I know my whole team's ready to be outside. We're kind
cabin fever, man.
Yeah.
How long is your outdoor season out there in Michigan?
It's short, man.
12 weeks.
Yep.
That's it, huh?
Spring break built in there.
Yep.
Oh, so that, yeah. Now, are you guys allowed to train during spring break?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't tell somebody you can't tell a family you can't go on vacation. It might work. It might work in some communities. It doesn't work out here in ours.
No, and I don't. Well, I mean, and I don't think you should either. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So like I said, we have a very interesting season that needs to be planned right because it's short, it's compact, and then once you hit April, there's the whole month of April. You're pretty much going Tuesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Friday.
Gee, that's what you guys were talking about before, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a roll of the dice whether it could be 70, or it could be snowing. You never know.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I said, you guys are dealing with a whole different environment over there. Latif sent me his whole 17-week indoor season, and I would look at it and it's like snow day. Did not train because of weather. I'm like, what is this? What are you guys doing? Like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, I don't understand what this is. What do you mean no training because of weather? That's so weird.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes there's just flat out days where we just get the call at 5:30 in the morning, no school, shutting down.
Right.
You guys have snow days over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We didn't have too many this year, but we do have them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna
snow
tell
a bunch
you,
overnight, and then the big one is, what they can't have is often the temperature gets too cold for the kids who are waiting out for buses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing they always look out for is so.
When that wind chill is single digits and sometimes below zero, you can't have the kids out there. So.
Yeah. So that's like, all right. Sorry, fellas.
I'm trying to think. 2 or 3 years ago, we had we had black ice form on our highways.
Mm-hmm.
And
boy, how was that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, like the whole city was shut down. We had no clue what the hell to do. But it snowed, and I remember they canceled school for like 2 or 3 days in a row. And I just remember thinking, like, where, like, you know, and it wasn't that bad. It was probably like, I don't know, you know, maybe like 35 or 40.
Yeah.
But because people literally have no clue what to do when it freezes over here, like, we don't know what to do. Like, we stop living. Like, we just hole up.
Yeah.
If you know those, I don't know. I think there's a show on TLC. Those crazy people that have like those underground bunkers that, you know, they go and hide in there. When it snows over here or freezes like or under 32, that's us. Like we hole up and we have no clue and we think the world's coming to an end. We're like, no, what's going on? We don't know. It's just so weird over here. So yeah, we don't have a lot of days out here.
Rock salt, man. That's what you got.
Yeah, well. I know it exists. I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you guys know it. Like 3 years ago, they had it in Dallas, and they weren't prepared for all the freezing rain that they had. So like, apparently, like the whole Super Bowl week, it stunk because the city of Dallas had no idea that it was going to be freezing, and they were so under prepared for it.
Yeah.
Because again, we don't see that weather out here. It never happens. So
that's funny. Whereas for us, if it's 45 degrees outside, all the kids are like, "It's pretty nice out. Let's get out for a run."
Yeah, hold on. Let me wear my shorts and a t-shirt out there.
Seriously, yeah.
Kids are like, guns out, guns out.
Man.
I'm like, no, man, layer up. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find you guys on social media. When it gets to be like 65 or 68 over here, kids are wearing like hoodies, 2 layers of clothing. I want to have to send you guys a picture of that. Even the kids that come from a cold climate, they're here for a month and they're like, "Coach, I already forgot what it's like," because you get so comfortable.
Shoot, man. I tell you, we get 60 degrees, man. People taking shirts off. Everybody's in a deep sweat. They're all like, "Oh, it's so hot. I need some water. It's so hot."
Coach, can we get a water break? We barely started warming up. What are you talking about?
It's warm, that sun,
No, man, it's March out here, and we already had people tanning yesterday, getting their tan on. We already have tan lines going on right now. It's pretty hot out here. Yeah.
Different world.
I know, man. I'm light-skinned.
Just to say the least.
It's crazy.
You haven't seen the sun in a while, huh?
I haven't seen the sun in a while, man. I'm light-skinned. I'm usually not this brown,
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, man.